Okay, so as promised, I'm going to show you a tutorial on how to properly use master pages and some other tricks, tips, and workflow things. So, what I'm going to do first is there's a number of considerations for doing layouts, and so one of the first ones are going to be colors. And in order to get the colors right, I'm going to use Adobe Cooler. This is a free product that Adobe gives away, so you can use this anytime you want. It does require you to know the ID count, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Create, and I'm going to upload from an image, one of my files. If you go inside of the InDesign training file, you'll see I have this base image with the Space Kitchen. It only accepts certain file formats. I also have a TIFF file, but this is one of my 3D renders. This was done very quickly and it's low res, but it gets the job done. And you'll see what Adobe Cooler does. It selects 5 predominant colors from the area, and if you choose, for example, dark, it will select a slightly different palette. If I'm happy with that, I have it set to private, so this is only viewable by me. I can call this Space Kitchen. And call it Space Kitchen. Very original. I can save this out, and then now I see my Space Kitchen, which I had already saved the swatch out. But if I go here to download this as an Adobe Swatch theme, go to my InDesign training folder, go to my swatches, I can save that out. And now I can have this font available. If I go inside of InDesign, I'm going to be using the Work in Progress folder. If I go to swatches, I already have loaded it up, but if I go to my swatches flyout panel and I say load swatches, I can see now that I have my Space Kitchen swatch. And if I click OK, it will load in those fonts. Now, since some of these, not font swatches, since I had already done some of these, I'm going to go ahead and just delete those out. I'm going to pull down this worthless registration. Adobe keeps this in here, I don't know why. It's not even black, it's a fake half-tinted black. The real black, what they call rich black, is up here. Use this one. This is one of those old legacy features, but Adobe doesn't give you a way to get rid of it. This is non-editable. Same with like these ones up here, you can't get rid of them. Of course, getting rid of true black, it's obvious why you can't do that, and getting rid of the none setting would also be tragic if you got rid of that and never get it back. But this one is bad juju. Just don't touch that. So now I have my swatches loaded up. I'm going to go now to my pages, and right now I have what's called a master, and I set out some quick grid lines. One of them I don't actually need, this one, so I'm going to just drag that off the screen. And what I'm going to do is right click on it and go to master options. I don't want to call this one A, and I set it to have 1. Really, I want this to be main beginning, like that. Now I'm going to go to my layers panel, and inside of layer 1 I have a text frame, which is up top here, and then I have a basic rectangle, which is, actually I don't even see it. Okay, that's what it is. That is my background rectangle. Now in order to prevent me from doing something like that again, I'm going to click and wait a second, then click again if it doesn't work. So click once, click again, and you'll get the ability to edit it. I'm going to call this one BG gradient. And you can see it's just a very basic black to white gradient. And I'm going to lock it, so that way I don't accidentally move it or delete it. Now what I'm going to do is select my text frame, go up here, drag down into my page layout. This is a 6" by 9", so 6 by 9 layout. I actually am going to unlock this gradient very briefly. Meatball it, well, it's not called meatball, it's the rectangle selection. Just to make sure that's selected, I'm going to go all the way out to the bleed. And so now I'm guaranteed to have this print whenever I take it to a printer. Now I'm going to lock it. This one right here, click. I'm going to call this one image, and I'm going to call this one multi-text works fine, but I'll call it heading text. Just to keep everything organized so I know what I'm working on. Inside of the heading text, the next thing that I'm going to do is if you go to Awesome Font Stack, it gives you basically a bunch of different options for creating libraries of fonts that are supposed to be quote-unquote awesome. And for example, I know that for my heading font I don't want sans serif. Serifs are these little hooks on this T, and sans serif means no hooks. The one that I chose for my first font was Arvo, and this is the Arvo font. If I click a different one, you'll see it give me a live preview of what it looks like. This Cheris is also nice, but I went with Arvo. Then I went next, and what did I use for this? I think I used Crimson. I'm not going to worry about it too much, but in this case I'll just select Spring Steel. Nah. Text Geyer. Then a decoration font. I'll go with Ubuntu. And this is a sans serif font, so you see there's no hooks on this message. Then for monospace, I chose Lecton. And monospace is this font right here. Now it says take me to the CSS, but really that's not what I went to. What I did instead was I opened all these up as fonts like that, and you'll see that you're now able to download each of these different fonts. And whenever you download that, it'll give them to you in a folder. I'm not going to redo that because, as you can tell, I've already done this. Now in general, these are TTF files. I don't like those. That stands for True Type Font. If you're on a Mac, these may not work. If so, then just whenever you look at the formats here, whereas all formats, make sure you set it to Open Type Font only, and then go through the serif fonts and find the ones that you like. And this just gives you a nice preview. Now there is one thing to be careful of. For example, yeah, here's a nice one. This is Crimson. I use this one. But make sure that it has multiple styles. So if it only has one style, then what you're looking at right here is all that it can do. It can't bold, it can't italicize. It will only be whatever you're looking at right there. So the more styles it has, the more versatile it is. But these are all free fonts, so the 100% free for commercial use fonts. So most major foundries only put out like one little font in these free font packs, and if they hope that if you like it, you'll buy their commercial fonts, is how that works. But I've already included all these. If you're on Windows, select over them like that, right click and install. I'm on Windows 8. You can also install these as a shortcut, but I don't recommend that because it seems as if InDesign does not recognize it when you install a font as a shortcut. Whenever you go inside of here, even if you have it on your system, InDesign will tell you that you don't have it, and you're going to get this warning box, which we're going to deal with. So in order to deal with our little warning box here, you can see it's telling me that I have this one, which is the wrong type of. Oops, yeah. So now it's changed out from the wrong font to now being the correct one, and now I have no errors. So I'm good to go there. Alright. Now inside my heading text, let me see if I have actually defined any styles yet. I haven't. I'm going to click inside of there, so I just drew out a box, and I'm inside of my A main beginning, and I'm going to type in the modern house. Now I'm going to select over my text, or hit Control A to select all, Command A on the Mac, and I think I'm going to make this one. I'm going to use Arno Pro. I don't know if you're going to have this font. It's not in my stack. You can use one of the other ones if you so desire. So I'm going to go to Arno Pro. I'm going to set this to bold caption. I'm going to set my size. I think 40 pixels will work, or 40 points. Tab. For the here where it has the kerning, I'm going to set it to optical. And you'll see, for example, let me go back. This is what I was talking about in class, but you see how this M, because of that serif, is getting really close to this O, but now there's this awkward space in between the O and the D. So if you set it to optical, it fixes most of those kerning problems. You now see that it's spaced out nicer. The TH and the E, it pushed this over a little bit. Right there is kind of a problem area. Yeah. So select your H, even on the optical, you can still occasionally have a little problem, and just space that out. And I think that looks a little bit better. Now if you're a professional typographer, they'll spend hours and hours going through and manually kerning everything, but here I just wanted to separate the TH and the E. So even using optical, it doesn't guarantee that everything's going to work out perfect. Now I'm going to select this text, go to my swatches. The color that I want is this gold color, which was lifted from the cabinet. Now I'm going to center this like so. And what else? I think I'm going to select this text box. I'm going to collapse it some to about right there. And right now I'm lined up across the ½ inch mark. I'm going to go down to the 1½ inch mark. Right there. Hit W for preview. And I think that's looking okay. Or at least good enough for a quick little demo. Now I'm going to go to place, and inside of my InDesign training folder, for the file I'm going to place, I'm going to use this TIFF file. I'm going to click on the center of the image, so I'm dragging it this way, because what I really want to see for this quote-unquote modern house is that. Actually, I think I'm going to scale it proportionally, and then now raise up. Oops, didn't want to do that, really. Actually, yeah, I did. Now I'm going to scale it out, holding Shift key, a little bit out this way, just to cut off that top for the never-ending background. Maybe a little bit more. And I'm thinking right there for the modern house. That looks okay. Well, okay enough for a tutorial. Now that I have done that, I'm going to create another master page. Hit the flyout menu, create a new master. This will be B. This one I'm going to call Text Overflow. It's not going to be based on any master. It's going to be a 2-page layout, 6 inches wide and 6 inches in height, because this is the year 2012. And I'm going to click OK. And now I have this thing called Text Overflow. This is one of the things the tutorial tried showing, or the book tried showing, but it did a terrible job at, I think. So I lost all my layers. So what I'm going to do, window, there we are. Dock this over here, fly it out. I'm going to create a rectangle from the upper left bleed region all the way down to where the this book would end. And for its proportions, 6.25 by 9.25 should work. And now I'm going to select it with my marquee tool and hit the gradient. And then drag that over here. Now for the angle, I'm going to put a 90-degree angle. There we go. Why did that work? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down the Alt key, hold down Shift, and I'm going to move that right on over. So I have 2 background gradients. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my text tool. I'm going to go from the top right of this frame here. I'm going to fill it up like this. Then I'm going to do the exact same thing over here. Tidy it up. Make sure, by the way, if you want to avoid some heartache, if I drag this below the BG gradient and I try selecting it, it's now almost impossible to select. The reason why is that the gradient is on top of it, so I can't see it. So if you're going to be working with the text frame, make sure that it's over here. Just for neatness sakes, I'm going to call this one left text frame. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to meatball this. Right here, this gives me the text overflow option, and I'm going to link this input to that input. So that's why I'm calling it text overflow, because now it will keep reflowing this text. And it looks like this isn't quite long enough, so I'm going to go ahead and just drag this one out a little bit, just to make sure that it matches. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create my final master, new master, and I'll call this one thanks. This will also be a one-page ending. Inside of here, once again, going to create our fill tool, draw this out, go back to our gradient editor, create it at a 90-degree angle. Then I'm going to create a text box, put in some text to fill that up. I'm going to say special thanks to. I don't want that for this, so I'll say lecton. Yeah, that's why it's going haywire. Say lecton, I'm going to italicize it, and I'm going to shift this down to 10 points and use optical kerning. I don't know if this font actually has in the italicized style particularly. Let me treat that lighter than at the bottom. So I have lecton regular 10 points. I have a bullet there. I'm going to go to paragraph styles. I'm going to alt click. I'm going to call this one special thanks. Apply style to selection, but of course it's already applied. And it will keep all these settings that I defined, which is pretty much what I want. Paragraph styles have vastly more options than do character styles. So now I have this special thanks style. I'm going to right click and select, do that, and that will override all the settings. Up here where I have special thanks to, I'm only probably going to do this once, but I guess I'll use Academy. That seems to work out pretty good. I'm going to make this one a lot bigger. We'll go with 18. Right here, fly out this, click that. And then center this text, so that way that flows. Don't think that's quite big enough for a thank you, so I'll go to 36. I think that works pretty well. Let's see how it looks bolded. No, italicized. So special thanks to Michelle, Dominique, etc. Go to my paragraph styles. Alt click again. Call this one special thanks. There's no need to actually redo this special thanks one, but I'm going to do it anyway. Oops. It's telling me that. Why would you rename it special thanks heading? That works. Okay. So let's get a quick preview. We hit W. We see that. We go to master page 1. A main beginning, we see that. Now what we're going to do is for the first one, having it as A main beginning is fine, but for the other ones that doesn't work anymore. So we're going to go through And I could put the special thanks one down here at the bottom, but that's not really going to work out very well. The next thing to note is where these numbers are starting. So if I go to numbering in sections, this is something the book tried showing, also pretty poor. But if I start a section off at 1, I can also choose to make it 0, 1, 0, 2, or A, B, C, D, E, F, G, etc. And I can add a prefix, so if I wanted to call it, main 1, main 2, main 3, etc. If I clicked OK, I see main 1, main 2, main 3, etc. So, numbering in section, turn that off. Delete that. Automatic chapter number, that's fine. Start numbering at 1, great. Okay. Now here's one of the secret tricks. So if I double click on this, I see the modern house based upon this A main beginning. Now one of the things to note is that you cannot change by default the text inside of the master layout. So if you use the templating thing where you're drawing out those X's, for example, if I click on this, and make sure the layers, pages, go inside of here. Yeah, they're selectable. But if I went into this page, and I tried selecting it, I notice I can't do it. But if I hold down Control Shift and I click, now I'm able to edit this text box. So that's how you actually go in and are able to edit. And once again, it's going to try starting me off with the font that I already told it I don't have and don't want to use. But click on something and then Control Shift click, and that turns it from being uneditable to editable. And that's how you're able to break the links. But that's how you actually template. Now the next thing I'm going to show you is go to place. I'm going to place a text document, which is a huge amount of gibberish text. And now it's trying to use the font I already told it I don't have. Minion Pro is going to work pretty good here. So I'm going to change all. There we go. Now here's a trick. If I hold on the Shift key and I'm inside of a frame, instead of if I just click once here, it's going to fill up everything until it gets to the overflow region, at which point I get an error telling me that I have more text than can be seen. And so I could manually go in and add all those pages, but that strikes me as being incredibly painful. There we go. If you hold on that Shift click, and when you're placing text, what it's going to go ahead and do is create automatic new pages for you. So where I have main 1, main 2, etc. going all the way down. Oh, thought I gotten rid of that. Looks like it's still there. It doesn't bother me too much though. But now we have my text overflow. Why I created that is because now it automatically wraps the text through and onto the next section. So by creating these two, if I had a lot less pages and I just created these two masters, I could have used that to automatically generate all of this new text. Now if I go down to my last page, which is page 26, I'm going to delete off the last little bit of the lorem ipsum text. So yeah, it is a quick gotcha to be aware of. So I have the main 1 here. This is a one-page layout by itself. That's fine, it would print like that. But whenever I go down to the bottom, the only way to make this special thanks page appear is it needs to be on a line by itself. The only way to get it to work with one of these was I would need to make another text overflow and then position this one to the right of that and make sure it's a 2-page layout. If you have a dangling last page, instead of creating a single 1-page section, go ahead and create 2 with the exact same thing on it, so that way no matter whether you get a single page at the end or you get a double page, you can just quickly drag and drop one on there. And then now if we went to print this, we would get our special thanks page, and if I was to go in here, this is the left hand side one, and add my favorite Martian, why not? What the? Okay, if I was to take this and, well, I don't need to reapply it, it's already been applied. But if I was to jump down here, I can see now that my favorite Martian is updated. So this allows me to, if I'm working on something, quickly add more people or the things that. And if someone was to tell me, hey, I don't like this particular image, then I could mock up multiple versions of this beginning folder and just change out the images and then quickly drag and drop it on there whenever I was sure what font or other things they had. So hopefully this explains it a little bit better than what the book did, which I know is very low expectations, but hey, got to start somewhere.